everybody. Tonight we're going to do chapter 31 of Genesis, and this is a very interesting story, and it just shows a lot about the way people are acting and just people's emotions, and it's just really not that different from now. It's kind of like a little soap opera. It's really good. I don't know, it seems to me like, so this starts talking about in particular idols, this chapter, and in particular I think in Hebrew they call it teraphim, and we'll talk a little bit more about that maybe in the end. This story is really, really good. Okay. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob had taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. So now Laban's sons are blaming Jacob. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. So his sons are all influencing him. They're very jealous. Okay, and the Lord said unto Jacob, return into the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. Because it looks like they're all going to start to attack him. And they said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father hath been with me. And ye know that with all my power I have served your father, which he did. And your father hath deceived me, and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. If he said thus, the speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, the ring-straked shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ring-straked. Thus God hath taken away the cattle of your father, and given them to me. And it came to pass, at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes, and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring-straked, speckled, and grizzled. And the angel of God spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here am I. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes, and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-straked, speckled, and grizzled. For I have seen all that Laban doeth unto thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointedest the pillar. And where thou vowest a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return into the land of thy kindred. So God himself is telling him to get out of there. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he has sold us, and hath quite devoured also our money. So now his two daughters, Leah and Rachel, feel like they should not leave there empty-handed. And that kind of explains what's going to come up clearly. They're just like, well, he sold us. We have nothing too. So what's going on? They're complaining about the way Laban has treated them as well. Okay, so here we go. For all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. So they're just backing up. They should just all get out of there. Then Yaakov rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he carried away all his cattle and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting, which he had gotten in Padan Aram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. So that's probably the first time that teraphim is mentioned. It's verse 19. So Rachel has stolen the images that were her father's. And we just hear a couple of verses before this, she does not feel, they don't feel they were dealt with fairly. They feel they're owed something, and so they stole these teraphim. Not they, Rachel. Rachel did this. She stole the teraphim. And, well, what is a teraphim? Well, that's the mysterious, interesting part, because it's some type of idol. They say they're like household idols, so it's something that was common, that were in every house. And also, though, on the other hand, there may be some really severe degree of things that are very, very bad about these things, like maybe in some writings. So maybe they would kill, well, I don't want to really say, but probably newborns, and then they put some kind of like gold tablet, or not tablet, they did something where they made their tongue gold, something like this. I don't know, and maybe they would speak somehow. Maybe they could tell the future. Maybe they did some other metaphysical things. You could ask it questions and they would answer you. So even though, it says right here in 19 that they were just household idols, well, they could have been of some real value in that. Maybe, so this lady I was listening to before a couple years ago, I think she said something like, maybe there's some kind of like well, it can answer you or kind of talk to you. Maybe they can talk, but it's something like they're really bad, right? I mean, we'll find out later. That's why the commandment, that shalt have no other gods before me. And so, but this just shows right here, I think this is the first mention of idols in the Bible. So we should just stop right there and talk about it for a second anyway. But, I mean, it talked about Satan being a snake and all that stuff, but this is kind of important because maybe, or somebody can correct me, but I think this is the first mention of idols. So she said something like, it was really interesting, like, well, if it foretold the future or something, like, well, he totally had to get it back, and like maybe he had one like left where that was, or he used a neighbors or something to even find out where they had gone with his idols. But for whatever reason, these things were so precious to him, right? And it's sometimes like in another story, I think Micah um, maybe has possession of this too, or it's supposed to be like some good childbirth um, idol for her to have, which she shouldn't have, right? But the way I see this one, it's okay. Well, first of all, it's not worshiping God. So even though Leah's like backing up Jacob, and Leah and Rachel are both backing up Jacob, it's like, well, there is something kind of sinister about this idol. And this is the first time that it's mentioned, and it's called like a teraphim. But it's like, what if like people like consulted these things like daily, and it's like it's kind of satanic divination thing, right? And so it really could like just tell, you could ask it like anything, or like, okay, where did Jacob and Rachel and Leah go? Where did he take my daughters to? And it'd be like, oh, and it would talk to you and answer you, or it would point something, however it did it. But he was so mad. So look at, Yak already paid for his daughters. They're not his anymore. And watch what he does. Watch how he talks to everybody. Even after God warns him, do not bother him at all. He can barely hold his tongue. I'm surprised he doesn't get struck by lightning. But there's something going on with these teraphim. There's some kind of divination thing that was possibly like, just really everybody had one, and this is just really part of a really huge problem. But you just hear it lightly, like, oh well, they were the household idols. But a Laban is very aggressive in hunting. You'll see what he says and what he does over this. They are of high importance. Well, I think he really just wants these back so bad. It's not his daughters. Yes, of course he wants Jacob back. He gave him so many blessings. Wherever Jacob goes, everybody and everything's blessed. Of course, but what he's really concerned with are these idols, and it's really mysterious. Okay. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's, the teraphim, but it says the images. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban the Syrian, in that he told him not that he fled. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river, and set his face toward the Mount Gilead. And it was, so I looked at it, it's like east of the Jordan River. It's like, okay, well, I'll tell the rest right here. And it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled. And he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him in the Mount Gilead. Like, he's stalking him, like, for what? We'll find out, right? Like, he already paid for his daughters. Okay, now listen to this. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said unto him, take heed that thou speak not to Jacob, either good or bad. He just told him, stay away from him, do not bother him, leave him alone. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the Mount of Gilead. So after 7 days, they caught up with him, because probably somebody else had a teraphim. there following tracks. And Laban said to Jacob, what hast thou done that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives, taken with thy sword? So he's like a drama queen, right? Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and didst not tell me that I might have sent thee away with mirth, and with songs, and with tabret, and with harp? See, he had that dream. He's trying to be really, really nice, but watch. And hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the God of your father spake unto me yesternight, saying, take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. So he's scared. And now, though thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? So he just wants his little teraphims back. So really it's wherefore hast thou stolen my teraphims? So these are the idols placed above God. It's we're talking about in the Ten Commandments. This is an example of things they have around the house. They're considered household gods. So like unless we are super discerning and about it, so most likely most people have idols all over. So it's kind of important to assess that and what kind of things you're kind of idolizing. We're kind of idolizing above God. So it's really a subtle story, but it's got so much, and I think it's the first time any type of idol is mentioned. So this is a really, really big deal. This guy, it's like, look, he should have cut him loose. Like we discussed this. It may not be just 14 years. I think it's got to be 21 years, because he still stayed there under Laban when Leah had 6 children, and Rachel starts having children. So he was just in servitude, I think, at least 21 years. It was a long time. So it's really, he has no right to really, he doesn't know him anything. And he doesn't really need to say goodbye, right? But he's really just freaking out over these teraphim, if you think about it. This is like the moral of this one. It's not that he took his daughters. It's not, he can't keep them forever. He's got to go visit his own father. He just said that. He understands that. He's kept him like prisoner, kind of, for 21 years. Well, I might be exaggerating, but this teraphim, this is where it starts, and this is a big problem, and we'll see. We'll talk about it later. But this story is like a soap opera. It's really good. So, okay. And now, though thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, right? Like, I understand you need to go see Isaac. Yet, wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? Okay, little g gods. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, peradventure thou wouldest take it by force thy daughters from me. I can't believe this guy, Laban. With whomsoever thou findest thy gods, little g gods, let him not live. Okay, this is Jacob saying this, okay? And remember who took him, his favorite, Rachel. So he's just placed a curse on her. Okay? And Rachel, these curses are serious. Rachel's like, so this is soap opera. It really is. So Jacob, because he knew he didn't take him, he goes, well, with whomsoever thou findest thy goods, let him not live. Before our brethren discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the two maidservants' tents, but he found them not. Then went he out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images and put them in the camel's furniture and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And she said to her father, let it not displease my lord, that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. So she's very crafty. She has this hidden on under her on her camel seat cushion, like where she sits, and he's been through everybody's tent now, and this is like the last stop, and he's looking at her, and she's like, well, I've got my period, you want me to stand up or what? I am having my time of the month. Do you want to really go through my camel bedding or what? My camel seat. So yeah, but she is like not giving these back, and her husband doesn't know that she took them, and now he's just made a curse on her unknowingly. Okay. And Jacob was wroth and chode with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my trespass? What is my sin, that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? See? He is stalking him. For what? These teraphim. Okay. Whereas thou hast searched all my stuff, what hast thou found of all thy household stuff? Set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge betwixt us both. This 20 years. Oh, he says it himself. This 20 years have I been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of the flock have I not eaten? That which was torn of beasts I brought not unto thee. I bear the loss of it. Of my hand didst thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was in the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from mine eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. Oh, there it is right there. I've been talking about that. I was like, I heard it was 21 years. There it is right there in his own words. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac, had been with me, surely thou hadst sent me away now empty. God hath seen mine affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, these daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle. Listen to this guy. And all that thou seest is mine. Listen to him. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children, which they have borne? Now, therefore, come thou, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. So, he's just really upset about the idols. He knows Jacob has done not one thing wrong, but the problem remains though now that he cursed his wife. He did not know she has these things. So we'll find out about that. But I think this is really interesting. They start talking about that there in this chapter. And I don't know why I like this one so much. Okay, so I think because I listened to the lady that she does Hebrew studies, and she explained this chapter in Hebrew, and it was so good. I mean, to me, so I don't know if she's really pointing out that thing about the idol as much as I am, teraphim. She has a lot to say about it. She says, there's no telling, but, it was something so important. Laban, really, he's really after these items. It appears like he knows he can't get these daughters back. They are paid for. He even stayed there an extra 6 years. He's there 20 years. That's enough of you, Laban. So what's his problem? These teraphim, they are probably like handed down from, I mean, who knows? From like some bad Akkadians and some bad Sumerians, right? Who knows why everybody has these things? But it's pointed out in this chapter, these things exist. Okay. They're like little horrible Ouija boards. They like work all the time. They're just horrible, whatever they are. And they're not making it a big deal, but there is something wrong with these things. This guy is willing to really, that's the reason he did this. Okay. Now, therefore, come thou, and let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, gather stones, and they took stones and made an heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it Jigar Sahadutha. I mean, that sounds like Indian, right? But Jacob called it Galid. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Galid. And Mizpah. For he said, the Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent one from another. So I looked that up before I read this, and the word mitzvah in Hebrew means watchtower. So, and then if you look it up now, it's called, it has like a Hebrew or a Middle Eastern name, and it looks like there's a huge like watchtower made of stones there to this day. So I need to get better at the YouTube so I can put these pictures up like this, but it looks like this place, Mizpah, is still there. And of course, it's been through damage and stuff, but even to this day, it has like some stones built up into a watchtower. So I can't find it on my map, my good map here, but we'll go back to it sometime. But this land is still east of the Jordan River. This Gilead, and maybe it's interchangeable with this word mitzvah, but look at Laban trying to call it some. Let's not even get into that. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or thou shalt take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, behold this heap, and behold this pillar which I have cast betwixt me and thee. This heap be witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and that thou shalt not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm. So we kind of need to know where this, I just said I looked it up. I think it's still there. And basically, Laban is staying east of this pillar, and maybe, Laban is staying east of the pillar, and Jacob is to go west, right, and go back to Canaan like this, right? Okay, it's almost over. I don't know. Laban's kind of still ordering him around. He's like, you know what? You just don't come over here, and I won't go over there. It's like, that's some kind of covenant. It's kind of getting worse, right? Because because Ishmael is already over there, right? To the east. And Yaakov is told by God, you are to return to Canaan. You're to return to Canaan, to your fathers. Just go. And this guy is just like going, you know what? I'm going to stay here to the east. Just don't even come over here. So he's the one saying it. Okay, so the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us. And Jacob swear by the fear of his father Isaac. Try to get me out like that, huh? crazy. Satan. Okay, anyway. He's getting irritated by reading scripture. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. But anyway. The God of Abraham and the God... I hope I didn't swear. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us. And Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount, and called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread, and tarried all night long, all night in the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up, and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed, and returned unto his place. So he's just kind of spoiled. Like he wanted, I don't think he really wanted to say goodbye as much as he wanted his stuff back. He wanted those teraphim back. Those horrible teraphim. Look at why the smoke detectors go off. I didn't do anything. This place is satanic. See what happens when you read the scripture? So you have to read the scripture. Oh my God. Well, anyway, have a good night, everybody.